The notification sound from my laptop cut through the silence of my home office like a blade. I'd been working late again, the familiar glow of spreadsheets and quarterly reports painting my face in blue light. Marcus had texted me hours ago saying he'd be home by 10, but the empty driveway told a different story. It was nearly midnight. I reached for my phone, expecting another excuse about traffic or a client emergency. Instead, I found something that made my blood turn to ice water. A message from an unknown number, but the attachment was unmistakable. A photo of my husband Marcus kissing my younger sister Chloe outside the Meridian Hotel downtown. Thought you should know. Been going on for months. A concerned friend. My hands trembled as I stared at the image. Marcus's hand was tangled in Chloe's red hair, the same hair I'd braided when she was 7, the same sister I'd helped through college, through her messy divorce last year. The timestamp showed 9:47 p.m. Less than 3 hours ago. I'm Sarah Chin, 34, a forensic accountant who'd built her career on uncovering financial deceptions. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could track hidden assets across shell companies in 3 countries, but I'd missed the betrayal happening in my own home. My phone buzzed with Marcus's text. Sorry babe, client dinner ran late. Crashed at Dave's. See you tomorrow. Love you. Love you. The words felt like shards of glass. I set the phone down carefully, my mind switching into the analytical mode that had served me well in boardrooms and courtrooms. If Marcus and Chloe thought they could deceive me, they had no idea who they were dealing with. I'd spent 15 years following money trails, uncovering lies and exposing fraud. This was just another case. But first, I needed proof beyond a single photograph. I moved to Marcus's desk in the corner of our shared office. His laptop was password protected, but I knew his patterns. Birthdays, anniversaries, our dog's name. It took 3 tries before I gained access. His email account was a treasure trove of deception. Hotel reservations, expensive dinners, jewelry purchases I'd never seen, and messages to Chloe that made my stomach churn. Can't wait to be done with this charade. Sarah's so wrapped up in work she barely notices I exist. Just need to wait for the right moment. Her promotion means better alimony anyway. The lake house is almost ready. We can disappear there after the divorce. Lake house. What lake house? I dug deeper into our joint accounts, cross-referencing transactions with Marcus's credit card statements. There it was, a property purchase in the Cascades, bought under an LLC called Sunset Holdings. The down payment, $150,000 from our savings account, disguised as a series of smaller withdrawals over 6 months. Marcus had been systematically draining our accounts while playing the loving husband. Worse, he'd involved my sister in planning my financial destruction. My phone rang. Chloe's name appeared on the screen. Hey Sarah. Her voice was artificially bright. I know it's late, but I wanted to see if you're free for lunch tomorrow. I have some news. News. I almost laughed. What kind of news? Oh, just some changes coming up. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Changes. They were probably planning to announce their relationship after blindsiding me with divorce papers. Actually, Chloe, I was hoping we could talk tonight. I'm having some trouble with something and I could really use my sister's advice. Her pause lasted too long. Tonight? It's pretty late. Please? I'm really struggling with some financial stuff. You know how you always said I could count on you. Another pause. Okay, sure. I'll be over in 20 minutes. I spent those 20 minutes preparing. Not emotionally, that would come later. Tactically. I printed bank statements, property records, and hotel receipts. I set up a voice recorder app on my phone. If Chloe was going to lie to my face, I wanted every word documented. She arrived wearing a new dress I didn't recognize, her hair styled in soft waves. She looked guilty and beautiful and utterly treacherous. So what's going on? She asked, settling onto the couch where we'd shared countless movie nights and sister talks. I think Marcus is hiding money from me, I said, watching her face carefully. Some of our savings have been moved around and I can't figure out where. Her relief was palpable. Oh, Sarah, you're probably just overthinking it. You know how you get with numbers. Maybe. But I found some transactions I don't recognize. Large withdrawals, property investments. I slid the Sunset Holdings documents across the coffee table. Do you know anything about this? Chloe's face went pale. She picked up the papers with shaking hands. No, I don't know what this is. That's funny, because your signature is on the insurance documents as the emergency contact. The lie crumbled in her eyes. She set the papers down and looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since she'd arrived. Sarah, How long? I asked quietly. What? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? The question hung in the air like smoke. Chloe's shoulders sagged and suddenly she looked younger, more like the little sister I'd protected through scraped knees and broken hearts. 8 months, she whispered. 8 months. I'd been planning our 10th anniversary celebration while they were planning my destruction. The lake house. He said you two were having problems. That you were getting divorced anyway. So you decided to help him steal from me? It wasn't like that. Chloe stood up, her voice rising. He loves me, Sarah. He's been unhappy for years. You work all the time, you never pay attention to him. So you thought you'd take care of him with my money? It's not about money. Then you won't mind if I recover the $150,000 he stole from our accounts? Chloe's face went white. You can't. Sarah, please. We used that money to buy our future together. Our future. The words hit me like a physical blow. My sister and my husband had built their dreams on the ruins of my trust. Get out, I said quietly. Sarah, let me explain. Get out. She left without another word, taking her lies and her new dress and her guilty conscience with her. I sat alone in the silence of my living room, surrounded by evidence of the two people I'd loved most in the world plotting against me. But I wasn't broken. I was furious. And fury, I'd learned in my professional life, was an excellent motivator. I spent the rest of the night building my case. Marcus had been sloppy, probably assuming I'd be too devastated to fight back. He'd underestimated me completely. The Sunset Holdings LLC was registered in Washington state, with Marcus as the managing member and Chloe as the secondary contact. But the funding had come from our joint accounts, which meant I had a legitimate claim to the property. Better yet, they'd used my credit history to secure the mortgage, making me legally entitled to half the equity. By dawn, I had a complete financial profile of their deception. The hotel receipts, the jewelry purchases, the property theft, everything documented and categorized. I'd even found evidence of Marcus's plan to quit his job and claim reduced income for alimony calculations. I called my attorney at 8 a.m. sharp. Diana, it's Sarah Chin. I need to file for divorce and I need to move fast. Diana Sterling had been my legal counsel for years, handling everything from business contracts to real estate transactions. She was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely unforgiving when it came to financial fraud. What's the situation? She asked, her voice crisp and professional. I gave her the overview, emailing the documentation as we spoke. Her silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. Sarah, she finally said, this is one of the most blatant cases of marital asset theft I've ever seen. We can not only recover your money, but we can pursue criminal charges if you want. What are my options? Well, Marcus committed fraud by transferring marital assets without your knowledge. The lake house purchase makes him liable for conversion. Your sister could be charged as an accessory. We can freeze all his accounts, put liens on the property and force the sale. Do it. All of it. I thought about Marcus's texts, about his casual dismissal of our marriage, about Chloe's betrayal. All of it. The next week was a whirlwind of legal maneuvers. Diana worked with surgical precision, filing motions and injunctions that froze Marcus's assets before he even knew what was happening. The lake house was placed under court protection. His business accounts were locked pending the divorce proceedings. Marcus's first call came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah, what the hell is going on? I can't access any of my accounts. Funny thing about stealing from your wife, I said calmly. It tends to have consequences. Stealing? Sarah, you're being ridiculous. We're married, it's our money. You're right, Marcus. It is our money. That's why I'm taking my half of everything, including the property you bought with my sister. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. You know about Chloe? I know about everything. The hotels, the jewelry, the lake house, your plan to quit your job. I know about the text messages where you called our marriage a charade. Sarah, I can explain. No need. My attorney has all the documentation. See you in court. I hung up and immediately called my parents. This conversation would be harder than the one with Marcus. Mom, I need to tell you something about Chloe. The revelation destroyed my mother. She'd always seen Chloe as her baby, the artistic dreamer who needed protection. Learning that her youngest daughter had betrayed her oldest was almost too much to bear. How could she do this? Mom sobbed over the phone. How could she hurt you like this? I don't know, Mom. But I'm going to make sure she faces consequences. Dad was quieter but more furious. What do you need from us? Nothing. I just wanted you to hear it from me before it becomes public. The court proceedings moved swiftly. Diana had built an airtight case, and Marcus's attorney knew they were fighting a losing battle. The evidence was overwhelming, the financial trail clear and indisputable. But Marcus and Chloe weren't going down without a fight. They tried to claim the lake house was a gift, that Marcus had intended to surprise me with it. The story fell apart when Diana produced their text messages about hiding it from me. They claimed I'd been emotionally absent, that Marcus deserved compensation for his suffering. The court wasn't interested in their marital revisionism. Then they played their final card. Sarah, Chloe called me the night before the final hearing. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? I'm pregnant with Marcus's baby. If you destroy him financially, you're hurting an innocent child. I sat in stunned silence, processing this new betrayal. Not only had they stolen from me, but they'd created a life together while planning my destruction. You're lying, I whispered. I'm not. I'm 8 weeks along. Sarah, please. I know I hurt you, but this baby didn't do anything wrong. Neither did I. I'm begging you. Drop the charges. Take the money back, but don't send Marcus to prison. Don't destroy our family. Our family. The words were a knife twist. You destroyed our family 8 months ago, I said and hung up. I called Diana immediately. They're playing the pregnancy card. Expected, she said calmly. Doesn't change the law. Fraud is fraud, regardless of the perpetrator's reproductive status. I need to know if she's telling the truth. Leave that to me. Diana's investigator confirmed the pregnancy within 24 hours. Chloe was indeed expecting, though the timeline suggested the conception had occurred right around the time they'd purchased the lake house. Their future together had been literally growing inside her while they stole from me. The final hearing was held on a gray October morning. The courtroom was nearly empty except for our legal teams and my parents, who sat in the front row as a show of support. Chloe and Marcus sat together, her hand on her still flat stomach in a gesture of protection. Judge Martinez reviewed the evidence with clinical detachment. The financial records spoke for themselves. The property theft was undeniable. The conspiracy was well documented. Mr. Caldwell, she said, in 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a calculated betrayal of marital trust. You systematically defrauded your spouse while planning to abandon her. Ms. Chin, your involvement in this scheme is equally disturbing. The fact that you're expecting a child doesn't excuse your participation in financial fraud. Marcus's attorney made a final plea for leniency, citing the pregnancy and Marcus's previously clean record. Diana countered with the scope of the theft and the premeditated nature of the conspiracy. Judge Martinez's ruling was swift and comprehensive. The lake house would be sold, with all proceeds going to me as compensation for the fraudulent transfer. Marcus would pay full restitution plus penalties. Both he and Chloe would face criminal charges for conspiracy and fraud. But the real victory came in the divorce settlement. Marcus's plan to claim reduced income backfired spectacularly. His documented spending on hotels and jewelry proved his earning capacity, and his attempt to hide assets resulted in a punitive alimony arrangement that would follow him for years. As we left the courthouse, Marcus caught my arm in the hallway. Sarah, please. I know I screwed up, but the baby will have to live with the consequences of its parents' choices, I finished. Just like I had to live with the consequences of yours. I loved you, he said quietly. I really did. No, Marcus. You loved the idea of me. The successful wife who could fund your lifestyle while you played house with my sister. You never loved me. Chloe was waiting by the elevator, her face streaked with tears. She looked older somehow, worn down by the weight of her choices. I'm sorry, she whispered as I passed. I stopped and looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since this began. I'm sorry too, I said. I'm sorry you thought so little of yourself that you had to steal someone else's life to feel worthy. I'm sorry you're bringing a child into this mess. And I'm sorry that I spent 34 years loving a sister who never existed. The elevator doors closed between us and I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The anger was still there, but it was no longer burning. It had crystallized into something harder and more permanent. Resolution. 6 months later, I stood in the empty lake house, watching the real estate agent prepare the listing materials. The place was beautiful. High ceilings, panoramic views, a stone fireplace that Marcus had probably imagined sharing with Chloe on romantic evenings. They'd built their dream home with my money, and now it would fund my new beginning. The sale brought in $340,000 after fees and commissions. Combined with the other recovered assets and the restitution payments, I'd not only reclaimed what was stolen but secured my financial future. Marcus had declared bankruptcy, unable to meet his obligations while supporting Chloe and their newborn daughter. He'd taken a job selling insurance in Spokane, far from the marketing career he'd built in Seattle. Chloe had moved back in with our parents, her art career indefinitely postponed. I felt no satisfaction in their struggles. Revenge, I'd learned, wasn't about destroying others. It was about rebuilding yourself. I used the money to buy a downtown condo with a view of Elliott Bay. I left the forensic accounting firm and started my own practice, specializing in financial fraud cases. My first client was a woman whose business partner had embezzled $200,000. My second was a man whose wife had hidden assets during their divorce. People like Marcus and Chloe, I discovered, were everywhere. And people like me, the ones who'd been betrayed, who'd been underestimated, who'd been left to pick up the pieces, were finding their way to my door. On a warm evening in June, exactly 1 year after that first devastating text message, I sat on my new balcony with a glass of wine and my laptop. I was reviewing a case involving a corporate executive who'd been stealing from his company while his wife planned to leave him. The patterns were familiar, the techniques predictable. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thought you should know. Been going on for months. A concerned friend. This time, the attachment was a photo of the executive's wife meeting with a divorce attorney. I smiled and saved the image to my case files. Someone else was about to learn what I'd learned that night a year ago. That betrayal was just another form of fraud, and fraud always left a trail. I'd built my new life on the ashes of my old one, brick by brick, case by case. Marcus and Chloe thought they could erase me from their story, but they'd only succeeded in erasing themselves from mine. The notification sound from my laptop no longer made me flinch. Now it made me smile. Because somewhere out there, someone was about to discover that their carefully constructed lies were about to crumble. And they had no idea that the woman who would unravel their deception had learned her skills the hard way. I raised my glass to the Seattle skyline, glittering in the evening light. To new beginnings, to hard-won wisdom, and to the sweet, cold satisfaction of justice served with forensic precision. The game had changed. Now I was the one dealing the cards.